Hello and welcome to another episode of Dungeoneered, where Josh gets rid of my fun intros in the beginning because he can't roll with the flow. I'm Aaron.
And I guess I'm the party pooper Josh.
Yeah, you are. Hey, you rolled with it this time. Normally you're like, nope, we're deleting it. We're gone. We're done. Just, that's all I'm going to get? That's all I get?
Yeah, that's all you're getting.
Well, okay, let's do this then.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay, Josh, you told me that you had something you were going to say before during the podcast.
Oh.
You said it was funny.
So I
have to know.
I don't know if I would say it's funny. It's a funny thing that happened. So I went to go check my notes to pull up my notes because I write my notes on my laptop and then I go to this super old PC for actually streaming and recording. And so I was moving over to the PC and I pulled up my OneNote with all the notes that I took for my side of this episode. And the title is 1000% not what we're talking about this week. Because I never changed the title when I went through multiple iterations of what we were going to talk about this week.
I feel like you do that a lot.
Occasionally I'll be like, I'm not feeling it, and then I just change.
I mean that sometimes you just gotta change things up.
True.
What was the old title? Are you allowed to share?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Share with the class, Josh.
Might be another episode though. Ill matter in creating world-specific deities.
Ill matter?
That's the god's name. Man,
that sounds like an up-and-coming rap artist. Yo, I'm Ill Matter. Yo, yo, yo.
Okay, Aaron.
Tell me that wouldn't be a good rap artist name.
That wouldn't be a good rapper's name.
What are you talking about? Why not?
You told me to tell you it wouldn't be a good rapper's name, so I did.
Oh, gosh dang it.
I'm just doing what I was told.
I should have known. Curse you, Josh. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, that was the longest intro of all time.
Yeah, that was a bad intro.
Anyways, as you know, but not the audience, I have been on vacation for this weekend. I went on a tiny little vacation to a very, very small town to visit my parents. And I went back to my roots, which I'll spare everyone the beautiful noise of my roots. But my roots are very country. And so last weekend, I went over, and as I was there, my parents were like, hey, there's a rodeo happening on Saturday. And I was like, oh. It's like, yeah, we're going to a rodeo. And I was like, oh, okay. So we randomly went out to a rodeo. Luckily, it was all outdoors, so there was no huge issues, spacing and everything like that. So it wasn't a big deal. But
that's good.
Went to a rodeo last weekend. Yeah. I was a little bit worried because I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea because there was a lot of people. But it was all outdoors. Everything was all air free and open, so it wasn't too big of an issue. But during the rodeo, I thought to myself, which I always have to, when I think to myself, I always have to say self beforehand. But,
I mean, you have to let yourself know who you're talking to.
Right, exactly, because otherwise otherwise I get confused.
Exactly.
But I was thinking to myself, instead of an item this week, we should do something a little bit different. And we've done something similar to this in terms of the topic, but since I talked about a rodeo, I was thinking, how would you run a rodeo in D&D? Now, first and foremost, Josh, have you ever been to a rodeo?
No, I have not.
What? You've never been to a rodeo?
No, I would assume most people haven't.
Is it like just a hick thing?
I think so. I think it is.
Just a country thing?
No, don't get me wrong. I'd love to go to a rodeo. Just to kind of experience it. I don't know if I would exactly have fun, but I would like to experience it.
So, yeah, I'm torn on rodeos because rodeos they're fun to watch people get kicked off of bulls, to watch kids ride on sheep until they fall off, all sorts of different stuff. They did an event yesterday where they brought all the 8-year-olds out into the arena and they let out chickens, and if your 8-year-old caught a chicken, they were allowed to keep the chicken. which
That's cool.
is hilarious to watch, but also like kind of sad because like all these poor chickens are like running from hordes of 8-year-olds, like just running for their lives. So it's kind of like, ugh, but like that's kind of my dichotomy with rodeos is that like sometimes they're pretty mean to animals to like get them angry and stuff so they can like, buck people off.
Yeah,
So
the biggest thing that I've always I didn't think it was rodeo. I don't know what it is exactly. Whatever the one with that has a matador in it as well. It's pretty much a rodeo.
Rodeos kind of have those as well, but yeah.
Well, no, but so one of the things that they do at the end of those is they all take turns, like pretty much throwing spears into the bull.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying and terrible and just horrible.
Last night I saw a whole bunch of they were like beating bulls with sticks to like move them through like channels and stuff to get them into like place for the riders to get on. It's just kind of like,
it's a little
so
rough.
Yeah, but they're still entertaining. They're fun to watch people get thrown off bulls, which is also completely, you have to be insane to do that. I mean, that's so dangerous. Those things are huge. Yep. Those bulls are humongous. And when they knock you, when they like kick you off and they're coming at you afterwards, like it's crazy. But anyways, so I thought we should do something related to rodeo. How would you run a rodeo in D&D? And I immediately thought of a really interesting idea, but I want you to go first.
Well, of course, this rodeo, instead of having cows, this D&D one would have Tarrasques. You get on the back of the Tarrasque and they try to buck you off.
Well, my thought right when you're saying that was mammoths.
Mammoths would be interesting. Rodeo. I would probably do it.
That'd be pretty funny.
I think I would probably, if I was actually going to do this seriously, is I would have it be wyvern.
Ooh, like a flying one?
Yeah, so that wyverns, I would have like they would have some sort of netting or magical defenses on the roof, on the ceiling to kind of prevent them from leaving.
Yeah, and however long you can hold on to the...
Yeah, and because the wyvern are not intelligent like dragons are. Wyvern are animalistic, and they're really like animals.
Right, right, for sure. Yeah.
They're like dragons that are super intelligent.
Do you so in a rodeo, in a rodeo what happens is in like bull riding, for example, you have to last 8 seconds on a bull, and then after you last 8 seconds they score your run over those 8 seconds. Don't ask me how it's scored. I still don't know. I haven't figured it out. But it's like how rough the bull is, how like brutal the ride was, how well you were able to hold on despite it, stuff like that. How high the bull jumps, stuff like that. But and they give you like points. How would you score like a wyvern? Or would you score it different? How would you like do that with a wyvern rodeo? Rodeo.
Well, so what I would actually do is I would look at and research how do actual rodeos do this. Because that's one of the things I actually like about DMing is that it gives me a reason to research these topics I normally wouldn't.
Yeah, totally.
And so I would love to look into like how do rodeos score and why, and so I would literally look at that and then I would just convert it into a wyvern and how they operate. And so there would be things for like aerial spins and different like aerial moves they do, and you'd get more points for hanging on during those.
So how would you, so in a rodeo, how rodeos work in terms of choosing which bull you get, you like draw one. So it's like a lottery. You draw the bull that you get. Mm-hmm. And some bulls are like way meaner than others. So some bulls are like have really difficult, like they're known to be really, really difficult. So how would you do that? Would you like have players roll like a D100 or whatever to determine what wyvern they ride?
Well, so I would have it be, there would be like one wyvern of every draconic color. So I would have them roll whatever the D for that is, whether it's like a D8 or whatever. I don't know how many chromatic colors there are for dragons, and so I would have it be just that. And then if they rolled the same number as somebody else, I don't know, do they ever do the same bull, or is it just...
Well, it depends. So it depends on how big and how long the rodeo goes. Uh-huh. So the rodeo I went to last night was really small, so they only did one ride. But oftentimes they have multiple rides. Sometimes they're the same bull, sometimes they're different bulls. So it just depends on the rodeo.
Well, then I think that's what I would do. Is I would depending on how big I wanted the rodeo to be, I would either let them repeat the same number, or if they roll the same number, they got to re-roll.
Yeah, I think I'd have them. Yeah, I'd probably do like a. I don't know. Well, so it's funny too because in rodeos, bulls have like names, so they have like ridiculous, like like one of the names. Oh man, one of the names was called Squirrely Dan or Squirrely Dave, Squirrely Dan or Squirrely Dave. I can't remember which one, but
I hope it is Squirrely Dan and it is a reference to Steely Dan, because that is hilarious to me.
It might be. Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it was Squirrely Dan. I think it was Dan. That was the first one I said. I think it was Squirrely Dan, but. Anyways, he was supposed to be like a really bad, like mean bull, like really supposed to like be squirrely and hard to stay on. And he just didn't do anything. He came out of the gate and just like, he just kind of ran out there. Yeah. And it's funny because, so the bulls they had last night were apparently really brutal. And hardly any of the guys, so it's a small town too, so keep that in mind. It's a small town, small fair, but hardly any of the guys made it to full 8 seconds. And the guy who rode Squirrely Dan won because he was one of 2 guys to ride for 8 seconds.
Interesting.
But it was a good time. But my idea was very similar to yours. Like, do some sort of exotic animal, like some sort of like weird beast or monster, like direwolves, mammoths, wyverns is really good. I like that a lot. Griffins, things like that. Like, maybe even make it like a half circus.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I would make it also have a circus vibe to it. So I would also have a Nothic that would be like a fortune teller, and like I would add to it in other ways.
Right, and I think that would be super fun because I like the rodeo is almost always paired with the fair. So there's almost always, not always, but a lot of times they're separate events. But like a lot of rodeos I've been to have been part of fairs as well, like big state fairs and county fairs and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it'd be kind of fun to do like a county fair / rodeo that your players could be involved in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was it for my lukewarm open.
So this week was good for me. Hard with work and all, and learning a new job is
yeah. How's that going, by the way?
It's like drinking from a fire hydrant. It's kind of overwhelming, and because I'm just learning so much, and every day I come home with a headache.
Yeah, that's pretty classic for a new job syndrome.
Yeah. So when I began to research for this week's topic, I kind of felt lost, unsure of even what a great topic would be for this new world in Season 3. We haven't built very much yet into it, and so I began search, and I was like, maybe let's look at gods. Maybe we make gods this week. And I kind of looked around and went around some rabbit holes and stuff, and eventually was like, nope, I'm not feeling gods. Like, I like the one that I researched, but let's hold off. Maybe later.
Oh, okay. No gods for us this week.
But what I found, based on the god that I found in like where he was worshipped and stuff, and where he kind of became important, there was this city. This is kind of it was a nation, an empire actually, that was kind of important to their story. And I was like, you know what? Let me research that nation and empire and see what it's all about. And I was like, okay. As soon as I began researching it, I'm like, this literally fits something we already created and is kind of an interesting look at how they dealt with it. And so I think it'll be fun to see how we deal with it now.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm down.
So this episode, we're going to talk about Jhaamdath, an empire created that suddenly had lots of cases of psionics just suddenly appearing in their nation. Similar to that idea of how we would have that city that all of a sudden began to have massive amounts of sorcerers.
Yeah,
but these people had psionics and psychics. Now, this empire, this nation, started in a classic way. It was a tribe of people, in this case, humans, that established a small realm in a fertile land that they found. They were led by a warrior king called Jhaam. Really quick aside here. One of the major names in D&D podcasting is the McElroys, and I'm sure we've talked about them on the show before. They have the podcast called The Adventure Zone, and specifically the brothers Justin and Griffin had a series on a YouTube channel called Polygon, and they called this video series they had Monster Factory. And they would create these characters in character creators in video games, and they would make these monsters while making all these jokes, and it's hilarious and great fun.
Highly recommend it. It's so funny.
It is. They did one in the game Spore, and one of the creatures they created, they called Ja'am. And I know it's not how this name is supposed to be pronounced, but I have seen that video too many times, and it will be the only way I'm pronouncing Ja'am from now on. So just a heads up on why I'm pronouncing it completely wrong. So Ja'am led this tiny kingdom, and he began to conquer the surrounding villages. Not vindictively or as an imperialist expansion. He did it purely on the basis of, and with the goal of, securing the kingdom from attacks. Now, sadly, during this expansion, Ja'am fell before he could complete his mission. Luckily, Ja'am had ancestors willing and able to complete this task after his death. They called this new nation Jhaamdath, and they named their capital Narcolith. In less than 30-ish years, Narcolith citizens began to experience strange things. They began to manifest a new kind of magic. This was magic of the mind, as they developed what we would call psionics. But they didn't have that name to go off of. So to them, they called themselves practitioners of the invisible arts.
I like that. That's interesting.
It is. Seeing these people developing powers like this, we as people have a natural reaction to want to know why. And if we can't find a reason why, we kind of make the next logical thing that we can assume, quotation marks, and just say that must be it. So in this case, they ended up believing that these people were chosen from God, and specifically the god called Openser. This belief led to those with psionics to rise to a higher societal level with the development of a caste system. This cemented Openser as the state religion. Jhaamdath had become an oligarchy through this.
Jhaamdath. Gosh dang it.
It wasn't until Jhaamdath's 2nd century that a major transformation would take place. In this major transformation, the oligarchy was kicked out in favor of a psiocracy, a ruling body of power, powerful scions, and psychic warriors. These rulers would call themselves Blade Lords. Under this new government, Jhaamdath grows and becomes a confederation of 12 city-states. And through that time, the nation becomes known for its swordsmanship, and as well as its psionic powers. And it gains the title, the 12 Cities of Swords. Now, after this time is where things kind of go bad, as a coup d'etat overthrows the psiocracy, replacing it with a powerful emperor. Jhaamdath has now become an empire, and this imperial society begins to aggressively expand. It expands both west and south. During this expansion, they began to grow their navy as well, creating a large naval force, and despite a distinct lack of naval experience, the Jhaamdath military quickly took to it and became formidable opponents on the water. It wasn't long before they took their naval strength and began to attack nearby naval forces, and they sunk huge chunks of enemy fleets nearby. With their expansion into the navy and just west and south, they began to have a need for resources. And the resource they needed the most was wood.
Who doesn't need wood, you know?
I guess, yeah. Now, their need for more and more wood led to great deforestation of the nearby woodlands. The woodlands were not without life or without people living in them. The people that lived in them were the elves of Nikurameth, and they bravely and desperately fought back against Jhaamdath to defend their forest home. Sadly, the Jhaamdath military was incredibly powerful and mercilessly slaughtered them in their desire for more and more and more wood. These elves turned to elven high magic, a secret kind of ultra-powerful magic, and they were desperate, and they saw their own annihilation on the horizon. And so they cast a powerful spell that called forth an enormous tidal wave.
Oh, gosh.
That crashed on the shore, instantly destroying all of the 12 cities of swords.
I feel like that was a little bit of a mistake.
Yeah. This tidal wave destroyed the coastline, and only a handful of towers and keeps that were just happened to be on higher ground escaped the destruction. But because of how destructive the tidal wave was, a lot of these towers and keeps eventually did end up sliding into the water because the erosion was just too devastating to the land.
This is... Wait, what was this in again? Is this in, what universe, I guess?
Oh, this is the Forgotten Realms.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought.
So this is traditional D&D Forgotten Realms. The only parts of Jhaamdath that are still remaining to, approximately this day are very, very few graveyards and outposts built far away from the 12 cities of swords. The basin floor where Jhaamdath was is littered with ruins and of the cities. And psionic power slowly is leaking from just innumerable psionic enchanted magical items and people. And it has, over time, slowly corrupted the area. And the local flora and fauna all have become these new psionic monsters because of this. Now, these sunken cities are still spots of incredible power and have actually drawn in sea hags and creatures that long for power. And they still have residents in them.
Quick side thing. What's your favorite hag?
Ooh. I do like a good sea hag, though.
I think sea hags are my favorite also.
Okay.
They're so creepy.
They are. And that is all I have this week on Jhaamdath, as this psionically gifted nation that, through a few governmental issues with coups d'etats and overthrows, eventually became imperialistic and began to try to expand. And people didn't had enough of it. And they got washed away in the waves of time.
That's... Oh, nice. How poetic. How poetic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Are you taking a bow?
Yeah, I'll be here all week.
Okay.
Try the veal.
Good. All right, it's our turn now.
Be sure to tip your wait staff.
Yeah, true, actually. Anyways, it's our turn now. What, so do we want to make this sorcerer group? Is that what we were thinking? Is that what we wanted to do? Is that what you were aiming for?
Yeah. So what our story that we had so far developed, for those who haven't listened to the previous episodes, there's a magic box. It has magic things that it can do. When you put something in it, it gives you a magic gift, and it could be anything from something terrible to something incredible. One of the people who had it just wanted to get rid of it because they knew the true power of the lust for power that it kind of people wanted after it. So what they did was they hid it underground. The place where they hid it underground became incredibly magic rich, as there was an insane number of people in that area that all of a sudden were becoming sorcerers. So I kind of want to expand on that. So what is this sorcerer time? How does it still affect the world? Is it currently happening? Are they still having this effect, even though the box is long gone? Just kind of all that kind of questions.
Yeah, didn't we have, if it lasted 100 years or whatever, it remained permanent?
Well, that's the gift. So whatever you get out of the box, if it remains for 100 years. So this was more the effect of having the box nearby.
Got it.
So if we wanted to have it be, it goes by the same rules, by being there for 100 years, it permanently affects the land with magic, that is cool too.
Okay, yeah.
Because that would be another reason why nations would fight over this box, because just having it in your land gives you greater power.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of it does like something to, like there's some sort of, is it random? Like I want it to have an effect outside of it. I like think that's a fun idea. Like it's a very presence. It does things. Is it random? Do we want it to be kind of random?
Do you want it to be? Because I kind of liked it was just magic leaking out. But if we want it to be like wild magic, that's totally cool too.
Because I mean, the essence of the box is pretty random. You know,
yes, it is
pretty random. But I like either or. I like it like leaking magic and making the land more magical. But I also like it having like random wild magic effects in the area. Like, there's also a part of me that wants it to like. I mean, it's not sentient, but like it wants to be discovered. So it does these little things that like the box like produces effects that are abnormal so that it can be found.
Interesting.
Because I think, I don't know, like I like the idea of it. I mean, I don't want it to be sentient. Like I don't want it to talk to you when you pick it up. But like,
yeah, it still has a will of its own, but it's not sentient.
Yeah, like it will produce things that it like it enjoys being used, I guess is what, like it enjoys the trade that it makes and does. So it wants to be discovered, because what's the point of being a cool item that does cool trades if it's never used or discovered, because it's hidden away somewhere. So it does like weird things to the land to be found.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so one of these random ones, like we said, is it started creating magic. Do we want it to like, does it like change the soil of the area? Does it, well, first, where does it do this? Like, are we talking about like in the mountains? Are we talking about in a valley? Are we like, is it a valley of magic? Like,
I originally thought it was just kind of like a basic grassland somewhere that a town has been built on. But then you said mountain, and I kind of like that.
Honestly, I'm pretty open to anything, really. I think I
like
want it to be small.
Where there shouldn't. Yeah, I definitely don't think it's like crazy big. I think it becomes big because of what is happening there, but that's not for a long time. As they're like, it takes people being like hearing the reports, going and seeing it, and then being like, I don't believe it, and then having enough time to test it that know that it's true. Then they start building and doing stuff with the land.
I mean, I do love the idea of a small town that becomes the magical center of the world in
yeah, that's what I was seeing it as. Is that because I think we talked about, I don't know if it has to be. Well, I don't think it has to be, but that they built like a super powerful magic university on top of it on that area because of what happened there.
Yeah, no, I still think I like that. I like where that is. So I think what I want is like a tiny town in like a grasslands or whatever, like sheep herders or something, like something that's just totally mundane, and a place that people...
Water farmers.
Yeah.
Moisture farmers.
Yeah, moisture farmers. Yeah. Yeah. Like a group of moisture farmers that, you know... But I just want it to be like... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but that was the loudest plane of all time. Did you hear that?
I did not.
Wow, that was I'm surprised. But I want it to be something like mundane, where like somebody walks by and like they just like, here's the town of blah blah blah. You know, like who cares about this? Keep going.
Yeah.
So sheep herders or farmers, like something pretty mundane, and I like it.
Do you think it's heavily involved with the nation it's in? Like, do you think it's like, oh, this is one of our like major farming locations? It's still just farming, so it's not like people aren't like, oh, I love this place, it's so great. But it's like, it's still important to the nation that it's a part of.
I don't know. I mean, I'd picture like, if we're going around like the farming route, I'd picture that like every farmland thing is important to a nation, but it's just not really known for anything. It's just they produce their goods, they sell them at market or whatever, and that's what they do. Like you know, I mean, are you thinking of something different? Are you thinking like it is important?
No, I mean, I was okay with either. I was just kind of, I didn't hate, I kind of liked the idea that it, like, there are like important government officials that go to the city on a regular basis for some reason. And that they are like the first people to be like, hey, something weird's going on over here. We should probably look into this. Like, and so that's how it gets known.
Okay. Oh, did you have like a thing in mind about why like people go there?
Well, maybe it mines
Hot
something that's very
springs.
rare.
It's a popular vacation getaway for royalty.
I was thinking it was more
So
like
funny,
like gosh, I just said it. It mines something unique. Like maybe it's like mithril. Like so it's not like
oh,
it
come
doesn't
on.
make
That's so standard, though. When you could go hot springs, they've got diving boards, they've got cliff jumping. I mean, you could name it. They've got it. They are the first ones to invent the water slide. I mean,
I mean if that's where you want to go with it, that's fine. I'll go there. But
I do like hot springs, though. Not obviously not water park, but I do like the idea of like a soothing. Like maybe the magical effect affected these hot springs first, so they like regenerate. They partially like rejuvenate you when you relax in them.
Interesting.
And it's like it turned those magical first, and so it kind of gained a little bit of popularity within the nobility of like we can go there and for winter months. Maybe here winter is like really cold, like whatever nation this is, winter's really cold, so they have like their own like nobility come to this town to like rejuvenate in the springs.
I mean, that's definitely interesting, the idea of having it be.
I also, and this is wonky though, and this might be for some other time. I also love it of like the idea of a hidden hot springs, and that's how everybody became sorcerers there. Is like they all would go to these hot springs all the time, and like almost like Spider-Man like mutated them into sorcerers because it turned the pool magical. And maybe like one of the officials becomes a sorcerer or whatever as well, or like one of the kings like steps down from being a king because he turned sorcerer and he heads the academy or whatever.
Okay, see, I like where this is going. This is interesting. How it's like,
you just I gotta get rid of the diving boards and the giant hot springs.
Well, no, I'd like the idea of it not being like a major thing. Like it's not a place where all the nobles go. It's a place where only this townsfolk go. And so maybe like the tax collector or whatever, he is also in on this. Like whoever comes and gets the taxes
cuts their
from the
taxes
town
by 10% or whatever.
Yeah, and he gets to use it for free every year.
Yep, yeah.
And so he uses it as a vacation spot, and he is that one that you just talked about that says that he's that government official that when he became a sorcerer, he steps down. And
yeah.
maybe this nation doesn't like or doesn't like. Maybe they don't even like magic.
I do like that idea.
Maybe they're like a holy nation, and they see magic as people trying to become like God, and they just see it as unholy blasphemy, and so that's why this official steps down is because he's like, I'm unholy now.
Well, if we're going this route, what I'm thinking is this nation is like run by 5 high priests or whatever, like one priest for each church that is within the nation, like one high priest per church in the nation, and those 5 join together to dictate the will of the gods over their nation. And one of the high priests goes there. I want it to be somebody significant because I think it'd be interesting for somebody significant to like become magical.
Yeah.
And like leave and start and I think it'd be really fun too to have like a weird like little war play out or something, like maybe the other 4.
Oh, I definitely think I think that's what it all
like
leads
attack
to is that
like attack.
Yeah, it kind of becomes where they're like, oh, we are all becoming these sorcerers, and we're being shunned by our own nation because of it. But we're not doing anything wrong. It's just happening to us. And so it becomes like this, what do we do? And that dude who is like was a high up, like super high up, as you said, he's one of these high priests. he's like, we got to make a stand and like maybe even become our own nation if we have to. And I think that's where it leads eventually. But that was never like this dude's intention.
Okay.
Like, the high priest never wanted to break away because he still believes in the God and the deity. He's just like, this just happens to us. We didn't do anything unholy to become, as you say, tainted. It just happened.
Yeah, okay. So I like this idea a lot. And I want to build off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I love adding weird secret stuff in my world all the time, you know?
Yeah.
And so my thought is these like I like the idea of these hot springs being like a cavern or like a cave. Like they have like a cave system.
Mm-hmm.
Do we I think this is still important. Do we see it like in a mountain or in like a little grasslands? Do we see it like underneath the town, like these springs, and you have to like descend underneath into the ground, like some sort of like Minecraft cave in the ground? Or do we see it like into a mountain?
I kind of like the idea of it being just like this basic grassland, and it's just like maybe it's even in like hidden in a mountain nearby, and they've kind of like made it into, as you said, like a resort.
Well, oh no,
like they
I have
like
idea.
a front desk and everything.
What if it was like it's I mean, this is this is cliche and we've done this a few times, but what if it's like a rite of passage ritual thing where you get to go into the hot spring once it becomes like a thing, like once they realize what it actually does, like once you
so later on it becomes a
like I was thinking like the academy later on like is built over top of whatever this like the remains of the city, like the last stand or whatever of this little town. And because I see it as being like destroyed by the Holy Empire or whatever, but an academy is now built there in its remembrance and its remains, and like part of the final, like sorcerers come there from all over, and part of the final thing is to like descend into the pools or whatever and receive your, sorcerer magic or whatever. So I think that'd be really, really fun. You could even do like in its own, like sorcerer of the hidden pools or whatever. You could even do its own subclass. Or like,
interesting. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is how the kind of confrontation goes with the nation.
Well, okay. I see it.
My idea for this,
yeah,
is they go to like the confrontation begins and happens. And this one, as you said, high priest gains this power, and that kind of, I think it was like a limited area kind of fight before that, and then this kind of elevates it to this high level because even this high priest got infected, and so this is like becomes a nationwide emergency, quotation marks. And so what I'm thinking is that an interesting way for them to resolve this is that, unlike what you were saying, how there was like 5 high priests, I think there's the 5 high priests, but I think there's also like a high cardinal, like somebody who's above them, a holy, a pope-like person. And I think what they do is they have to get this water, like get him to drink this sorcerer water, pretty much. And by infecting the high cardinal, he can no longer see those as sorcerers, as evil, dirty people, because he realizes he didn't do anything wrong and became this.
Okay, I like this. I want to flip it a little bit. What if it was like, so there's 5 high priests, 1 cardinal. Okay, the high priest, one of the high priests ends up doing his thing at this village and becoming a sorcerer, and the cardinal, like the head of the entire nation, obviously thinks like sorcery is abhorrent and wrong, and orders some sort of like investigation or some sort of like holy divine research or something into how this could be happening.
Mm-hmm.
And my thoughts are, is he like one of the high priests becomes head of this like research, like maybe like a god of research or whatever, and the head priest of that church takes up that mantle and figures out that these pools are granting people magical energy. But instead of reporting it to the cardinal, she tricks the head cardinal, or he tricks the head cardinal into drinking the water, because they themselves want to be high cardinal, like the head cardinal. So they want to be able to like take over his position by saying, well, look, now he's
one of these dirty, cursed people.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And so then he is forced to become, and I think you're right. I think at this point that High Cardinal becomes the head of like...
Exactly. The head of the academy.
Because he was kicked out because he was...
Yeah, and I see it as like a partial redemption thing where he sees the error of his own ways. Like, well, there's nothing wrong with us. Like, you know. And so he forms this like secluded academy for all these sorcerers, and she leads like an army of holy crusaders in this brutal bloodbath of magical death. Like, I picture it like these sorcerers have become strong after for so long in these pools. Like, they grant you tremendous power, and there's like a terrible bloodbath of like thousands of men just wash upon the rocks of these like this like castle, this like sorcerer castle, and they're just like bombarding them with like, you know, magical death, and it becomes a horrible atrocity that's regarded throughout maybe even the continent that it's on as like a mistake. They eventually, like, I picture them eventually overcoming the sorcerers, but like it's a tremendous like moral atrocity because of the complete disaster that it was.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, well, was this disaster the sorcerers fighting back?
No, so it when it happened, it was known as a disaster because the nation, the Holy Empire or whatever, lost so many soldiers because they sent so many men to their death to fight against all these sorcerers, because the sorcerers were defending themselves. Later in history, it becomes known as a moral disaster because of essentially a witch hunt, pretty much. Like, they formed an entire crusade against a town of, or, you know, even a city of sorcerers or whatever. And it becomes known as like a moral atrocity, and thousands of lives were lost for no reason, because sorcery isn't a moral, like a moral problem. So it kind of becomes like known as a moral failure within humanoid kind or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking, so I want to dive in a little bit further. Do you want, like, do you think that's cool? Do you want to change anything? Do you like that?
Yeah, I think that's cool, and I think we fleshed it out enough. I think that's the way that the High Cardinal was kicked out by a lower ranked high priest infecting him and then taking over is beautiful. I love that.
And I see her like, your only way to not get infected by this sorcery is to like drink the water or whatever. Like, so we're going to send you away on like a secret, like maybe one of her like spies or whatever takes him in like a secret mission or whatever to go and drink this sorcerer water. Like, you know.
Yeah. I figure, I think it's something far less cool. I think it was simply he got some of this water, tested it, figured out this is what it is, and then just brought the test tube over and was like, here you go.
Now,
try
here's
this.
Another idea
this will
too.
Cure you or prevent you.
Well, right. But here's another idea too. What if this high priest or priestess also drank it and is a sorcerer too, but is like trying to
keep it a secret?
Yeah.
Oh, they're divine soul.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Like,
and so they hide it, but yeah, that's cool.
Like, they're trying to. It's like one of those, like, you're guilty of the crime, so you're trying to fight against the crime as much as possible to protect your innocence type thing. So I like that too. But I kind of want to dive into the after effects and the academy that forms into it, because I think is really interesting. So do we want the academy, and this is, you know, I don't know how long it's going to take, but do we want the academy to, like, do original members survive this crusade and some of the original people, like, or ancestors of the original people, or do we want it to be like
I think
a
it's
total
very few.
post? Yeah, or
I think
like
it's very, very few. But I think okay. Do you want these people to be successful in destroying this the current generation? Like, do you want them to like destroy them? Because I
well,
kind of saw it as them having to stand up for themselves, and maybe even the High Cardinal using some of his connections now that he is as this like leader of the group, because he's the only one who has any sort of like political know-how, and he like gets connections to the point where they're like, okay, if we like continue to attack them, our like allies are going to attack us because they are friends of the High Cardinal.
yeah, I mean, so one of the routes that I was planning to answer this question in a roundabout way, one of the routes that I was planning is like the academy is built in the area and they don't know where the springs are anymore. So like they're just lost to time.
I saw the springs losing power when the chest is moved.
Which yeah, we can do that too, but this was just one of the routes that I was thinking. Like if the springs still held their power, like they were lost or whatever at the time. And so maybe it'd be a fun like if one of the characters was a sorcerer and had a backstory of this, like one of their main goals is to find the springs again.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So that was like one of the ideas, because it would make being a player of this backstory have really fun open-ended things you could discover and try and explore. So that was one of the areas.
Oh, okay. I think I know how this happened. And
okay.
So I think what happened and how they all lost memory of where this fountain is that the High Cardinal, through his political know-how, he said, "Hey, if any of us get kidnapped, like or grabbed during a combat or anything, like they could interrogate us and figure out where it's at. So we have to come up with countermeasures so that you in those situations you won't even know where it was at." So they create this spell that will like stick in your mind, and if you're captured, it will release and make you forget. And so what happens is, in one of their like major combats, some sort of dispel magic or holy magic even triggers everybody's like safety measure to go off, and they all forget.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. There was another idea that I had along those lines as well, is like maybe the head sorcerer found the box and used it to do something. But I do like the idea of creating a spell and having like all memory and things removed of the springs. Or we can just go with the everybody died and we don't know where it is. Like you could do something like that as well.
I kind of want the High Cardinal to survive.
Okay.
I'm
totally fine with that.
I kind of see this as like hundreds and hundreds of years later.
Let's combine two of these.
This High Cardinal is still alive.
Let's combine two of these. So the box has to leave from these springs, okay? We have it making an island currently. So what if the High Cardinal
leave?
Yeah, what if the High Cardinal uses the box to survive? He maybe even trades his sorcerer powers, and he's now the head of the academy, but has no sorcerer powers anymore. He like trades his sorcery powers to protect the springs and protect the location of them by creating this spell that like erases the memory of all of these sorcerers.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets access to this 10th level spell.
Yeah, and he uses it.
Maybe even that's his thing, is like his grant is that he can cast one level higher magic than anyone else.
Yeah. Or his one thing is he gets some sort of divine level spell and it removes his ability to use sorcery anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I don't know, but I like him still being able to use magic, so I don't know.
The biggest thing is I see him as like so old and so like near the end of his life that he is no longer the leader of this nation. I mean, of this academy. He is now like he's someone you could meet and see, but he is not the leader of the academy anymore.
Yeah, yeah. He's just like the old wise mentor now.
Maybe he's even like an elf who lives for a super long amount of time.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. So, but I think we combine two of those where in order to save the sorcery bloodline or whatever in the sorcerer pools, he uses the box to save those, but in return, like he banishes the memory of it. And so the box ends up disappearing. Does he lose memory of it, or does he have like a weird, vague memory of it?
I think he lost memory of it too. I think he knows that he should know, but he doesn't remember. And maybe it was like a block that he put on his own mind, but
Well, here's
whatever
an
it
idea.
was.
Here's another idea. What if he tries to trick the box and creates a spell that fragments his memory? And so the part of the sorcerer's like backstory is to find all these fragments of memory to look for the springs. Could be fun.
And what
but
do
it
you
could
see
be,
these memory fragments as?
I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. I think I want to stick with the box like wipes memory of it.
Yeah.
And the academy no longer knows where this spring is, but it's protected and now is an academy there as like in living memory of it, even though nobody remembers what it was. Do they remember?
Okay. Hold on. Idea for what happened. The head cardinal, he wiped everybody's memory of it, and then he kind of became obsessed with it. And he's like, I will find it again. I will find it again. Once everything had calmed down, I think he did find it again, but he found it and it was inert. It didn't work the way that it was no longer powerful as somebody had removed the box. And I think that kind of broke him inside, is that he was so obsessed with this thing, and when he found it, it was broken pretty much. And so that is why his memories are fragmented, is because his own mind split them up because he did not want to think about it anymore.
Okay, I like this. But there's a part of me that still wants especially if you had a player in this backstory, still wants the springs to work so that like a player could like descend into them and receive cool abilities and powers that you could make for them. So there's a part of me that still wants them to work. Maybe there's only like, I could see maybe like there's two groups of springs and he found the wrong spring. Maybe this cave network has multiple different springs, like multiple different paths.
Nah, let's if we're gonna go with it still work, let's just have it still work. And
yeah,
they just all forgot.
I do like the idea of him like searching for it for a long time. I don't know if I want it to be madness though, but I like the idea of him. He searched for it for a long time and he could never find it. And maybe he has like, if the players talk to him or whatever, maybe he has like a little bit of information still. Like there are things he still remembers, but he doesn't know too much.
Yeah.
Just to give them hints into places where to look and things like that. And I think that would be, it'd be really fun, especially if you had a player who is, I love the idea of like a player's backstory is their player has always wanted to find these springs.
Yeah.
So now the question is, the academy then must know that the springs had existed in the past, right?
Oh, 100%. I don't think the knowledge that the springs existed ever.
But they just don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Right? Do they?
Yeah, the knowledge of where it's at is gone.
Here's the question now: Is the knowledge of the springs? Is it the springs once existed? They're gone now. Like they once existed, and they provided this incredible gift to the people that lived here. And now our academy's there in memory, as now those people have died and the springs are gone. Yeah. Is that what they think? Or is it...
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking also. Like, the knowledge is these springs granted these awesome gifts to the people but they're in the dead now, and so is the springs are gone as well. But in reality, the springs still exist.
Yeah, definitely.
Sweet. I like it. I like it a lot.
I do like it, too. So, what do you see... What is the current situation with the nation? Because the nation, we said, was this religious zealotry kind of place. Now they have this magic school in their nation. How did that become okay?
I mean, there's a couple things. My first thought was maybe after the person who tricked the High Cardinal, they become High Cardinal, and then because they are a sorcerer themselves, they, in fear of becoming seen or like discovered, they start trying to lax the thoughts on sorcery.
Interesting. And so they, over a long amount of time, slowly like tried to make it okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So that was one of my thoughts, but that one's kind of not like, that one's lame. I mean, not lame.
Yeah,
but
it's not the great. It's not interesting.
It's not right. It's just kind of like, it's a really good explanation, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it is.
It's not incredibly interesting.
Yes.
I still like it though, but it's just not like the most interesting thing. But the other one is they realize that it was a horrible moral atrocity, and they grant them that land as their own like city-state. So they, after a little bit of time, realized it was such a moral atrocity that they dedicated an academy there and gave it its free, like the land around this area, freedom, which I think would be really cool. It's like its own tiny city-state of magical advancement.
I like that. I like that as how it happened.
Yeah. So that'd be my go-to. Do you have any other ideas?
No, I like that one where it got to the point where higher powers were like, "Hey, you can't do that." And so they're like, it became known now in the history books like this was an atrocity. And so they can't deny that it's an atrocity because everybody else is like, what you did was atrocious.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And so they're like, okay, how do we like make ourselves look better on the global scale? And they decide to grant them freedom as a city-state within their nation.
Yep. Yeah. I think that is probably the most interesting and plausible.
Yeah.
Does this nation still believe sorcery is wrong, or they've kind of changed their minds? Is there a few like now if I had a player, I would definitely have like a sect of holy devout people that were like still trying to maybe hunt sorcerers or something. Yeah. So I think there's like a sect that still does for certain. Maybe one of the high priests or whatever does, or like
a whole think
group.
I don't think so. Okay, I think one of the high priests is definitely a part of this group, but I don't think it is outright okay to be a part of this group. I think this group is shunned as extremists, but they do still exist.
Well, and then some fun little plot backstory twist is that maybe the current high counselor is getting older in age, and this guy who is part of this group is trying to become the high counselor also. Maybe he's like a super pleasant dude and like a really like a very charismatic and pleasant person that when they party talk to, and they try and get him into the position as well.
Yeah, he tries to like work all angles, and then when he gets there, he's gonna be terrible.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
I like that.
And he's gonna like ban sorcery again or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like your bird's getting upset and uppity now, so I think
she just finished eating.
So I think it's time to end before it gets too crazy.
You can't even do a rambling outro this time.
No, I can't, but I think I will still.
Awkward outro. Here we go.
Well, thank you everybody for listening to episode 49 of Dungeoneered. 3 away from doing this for a year.
Yeah, but we need to make an episode called The Well.
The Unwell?
Well, like a well of ums, because you started this outro with well. Just terrible. Terrible.
That was bad. That hurt, Aaron.
That hurt
just
my
saying
soul.
that.
That hurt my soul. It was
Yeah, I
not.
definitely have a tainted soul at this point.
It's like you drank from the well. I don't even know where I'm going with this. You just
Yeah, it's
continue the
terrible.
outro.
Okay, well,
Continue
if you
the
listen
outro.
to us on any podcasting app that has rating and reviews, please write us a review. Let us know what you think. It really helps the show by showing you're engaging in more ways than just listening.
And don't sit from the unwell. Don't
If you
do
want
it.
to, if you want to send us a message and kind of maybe even give us ideas for interesting lukewarm opens that you want and like different things like that, write us at dungeoneered@hotmail.com. I think that's everything. Thank you for listening, and always
I was gonna say,
remember
you're gonna forget. You better not forget.
to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch. See you next time.
See ya.